Nicole Cruz here, Super Busy Mommy Coach, and I want to tell you the truth about sugar. Because sugar is really vilified, and don't get me wrong, in modern society, it deserves its bad rap, but it's not a poison. It's still a food. So let's get into that a little bit. First of all, I want to show you something fun I did with my son today. We made number cookies. He asked to make them. I don't know where he got the idea to make number cookies. But yeah, we made cookies. To make them, they're a cheat no matter what. If you have something with that much sugar, it's a cheat. But to make them less of a cheat, I used coconut oil instead of butter because I'm dairy sensitive. And we used whole grain oat flour, which I just think is delicious. But the whole grain adds some protein and micronutrients and good stuff like that. So and then, as far as eggs and stuff like that, I'm not really worried. So really the only negative thing in here is the sugar and the amount of coconut oil. It's a little bit excessive. So, but if you didn't have that much fat throughout the rest of the day, it's not even that bad. And it's saturated fat. So obviously you can't go overboard with it. But, so we have our number cookies here. And a couple things to know about that. The reason sugar is bad for most people in our modern society is that it's an efficient source of calories, right? So when you're talking about foods that come from nature, not overly processed, no chemicals, that kind of stuff, and if you have like some sugar is overly processed, don't get me wrong, but if you're using just like the regular sugar, like it's been done for hundreds or thousands of years, who knows when it started, it's not a poison in and of itself, but it's an efficient source of calories. There's really no other nutrition in it. So unless you need an efficient source of calories, you're giving your body an efficient source of calories with no nutrition. Who needs that this day and age when most of us are way too sedentary for our own good? So the thing is, let's say you were an old-fashioned farmer or hunter with like a spear, running after your prey for stalking them for days, and or working from sunrise to sunset on your crops, climbing trees and that kind of stuff, then you know what? An efficient source of calories might be exactly what your body needed. But for most of us today, it's just not. Most of us, we really need to have a very small amount of calories, like as little calories as we can get while getting all the other nutrients that we need, because we have a tendency to get overweight very easily because we have so little activity in our lives. So having something that is an efficient source of calories with no nutrients that actually help your body is the opposite of what most of us needs, which is why it's bad for most of us. Now, if you're a marathon runner, an Iron Man or Iron Woman, then sometimes you may need that during your training, and it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Would it be better to get it from fresh pressed juice? Yeah, maybe, because you're getting all the micronutrients, of course, but it wouldn't hurt you to have the sugar. It's not going to have those bad effects. The bad effects from sugar comes from having excess glucose in your bloodstream. That's if you have too much sugar in your blood that your body isn't using. If your body's using it and you're getting enough nutrients from everything else, and I'm not just talking proteins and fats and carbohydrates, I'm talking the micronutrients, the vitamins, the minerals, the antioxidants, the phytonutrients that we're not even sure exactly what all of them are or what they do, but there are thousands of them that are important for your body and we're still figuring it out. If you're getting enough of that stuff, then it's fine. It's fine the sugar's not going to hurt you. So now let's talk about with children, because children are growing and an efficient source of calories isn't the worst thing for them. I'm not worried if my kid has sugar every once in a while. Now, why is it bad? Again, there are no nutrients. So if a lot of your kid's diet comes from sugar, then they're missing out on all the other things that they need, which is absolutely crucial and important. So again, the main part of the diet should be comprised of foods that have a high micronutrient density, which is fresh fruits and vegetables, whole grains, nuts, seeds, legumes, those types of foods. Proteins, we all need them. We don't need them to be half our diet. We need them to be say around 25-30% of our diet, depending on your physical activity. Those of you who are active are more on the higher end. Some of you who are more sedentary, it depends. But and kids need proteins because they're growing, and proteins, like your DNA is made of amino acids. Amino acids are proteins. That's what they are. It's the smallest piece of a protein, pretty much. The building blocks of protein is what they call them. So yeah, those are important. But some people emphasize those too much, and too much of those aren't really good either. Excess of anything isn't good. You need things in the right balance. Okay, so yeah, so kids need their proteins, their micronutrients. If they're getting all of that, having some sugar to give them the calories they need to be active and grow isn't the worst thing in the world. Now, but here's the problem. That doesn't mean it's okay to feed your kids cookies all the time, because we're training their taste buds. Okay, so they don't need sugar, to be clear. Right? They can get an efficient source of calories from other things, or they can get enough calories from other foods that also have a lot of micronutrients and stuff. So unless your kid is underweight and having trouble gaining, there's no need for them to have that efficient source of calories. So really, it's okay to let them have it sometimes, but you have to think that when they're adults, they're going to have habits that were formed when they were children. Okay? And this even starts in the womb. So if you're pregnant right now, know that what you're eating while you're pregnant, that whole thing, it's okay for me to have chocolate cake because I'm pregnant. Think twice about that, because what you eat becomes your baby cells, and your baby cells need all the same micronutrients and healthy stuff that we do. Okay, so what you're eating is actually getting into the amniotic fluid, and your growing baby is actually inhaling that right now. They inhale the amniotic fluid. It trains the lungs, and so they're tasting it, and they're training their taste buds on what foods to like after they're born. So if any of you had the experience where your child is born and they won't eat certain foods, and it's a struggle to get them to eat healthy, it could have something to do with what you ate when you were pregnant. Not necessarily, and I'm not blaming here, because don't get me wrong, if I hadn't gone to nutrition school, I wouldn't know that. So, it's just I'm trying to get it out there so that, if you are in a position to do something, you can. It starts then. And then when they're young, the foods that we choose to feed them and get them used to, that's going to be their comfort foods, right? Right now, so many of us have trouble sticking to a healthy diet, because when we think of comfort foods like holidays, grandma's, lasagna or whatever it may be, we're thinking of these foods that aren't necessarily what we should be eating on a regular basis, but we associate them with comfort and pleasure. So we're training our kids on what they're going to associate with comfort and pleasure. And so if we're using food as a reward, if you're a good boy, you get ice cream, or when we get all excited, we're going to have family time and do something really fun, let's bake a cake, whatever the case may be, then that's how we're training them to associate sugar in their mind. And we're also, if they're having sugar on a regular basis, a couple times a week, I'm not really worried. But, I have a cheat day once a week, and this is when we do stuff like bake cookies in my house. And, my son does it right along with me. And if that's all the junk food he's having, I'm really not concerned. So you do that, and, that's fine. But if they're having it every day, they're snacking on crackers, which are also empty calories, if that's what they're snacking on, and then they're having white bread, and then they're having something sugary for dessert, then their taste buds are trained for that, and it's going to be much harder when they're older and when they can't really use the excess calories to start cutting them out. So that was a bit of my rant for the day. I went a little bit longer than I thought I would, but I hope that's good information and it helps you. And again, this isn't about judgment. I'm not, trying to lecture or say if anyone's doing, we all have to make decisions about parenting based on what we think is best. And honestly, a lot of this information isn't out there enough that some of us, made mistakes without even knowing what we were doing. And so putting this out there with the best of intentions, please share this with someone if you think they're interested and maybe don't know this information, but would really value having this. And, let me know your questions. Put them in the comments. Contact me directly. I answer my Facebook messages, my Instagram messages. I answer them personally. So please do that. I love answering questions from from my followers, my readers, my viewers, all of that. And I really hope you guys all have a healthy and happy weekend. Take care.